We had 15 overdose deaths last month, and we had 2 suicides. So our numbers have really creeped up in the last 2 months. Let's get to our agenda. First thing I want to do is approve our minutes, and I'll call on Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes from the April 4th, 2022 meeting and find them in order and move for approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Commissioner Cush. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we're going to do roll call. Go ahead, Rachel.
Commissioner Cush. Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner McAdoo. Here. Commissioner Rather.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Reed. Chairman Harris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, let's move on. I want to announce 6 vacancies on the Rutherford County Board of Health. I want to announce 2 county representative vacancies for the Linebaugh Library Board. I want to announce 2 vacancies on the CCRC Board of Directors. And now I want to update our 2022 holiday list. Since we are a subdivision of the state, we acquire their dates for holidays, and they have requested that we add 12/30, December 30th, as a holiday. So I'll need a motion and a second just to approve this.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion, I have a second. Second, Commissioner Cush. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Let's move on. Next up is our HR report. Ms. Stevenson.
Good evening. So I laid on each of your desks the summary of the report for the month of March. And we had 10 ADA requests. That's whether it was for an accommodation for an employee or a citizen or signs, all different types of ADA information that is needed by the general public, courtroom assistance, accommodations, those type things, interpreters for hearing impaired. Under the personnel changes, we have 42 different changes. 39 of those were promotions, and we had a couple of transfers. In that grouping, audits, the HR department did 3 audits in the month of April. We did an I-9 audit, inactive personnel, and inactive medical. Under state law, we keep hard copy records of personnel files for 7 years, and so that's what the audits were for the inactive medical and personnel. Benefits, we had 19 different opportunities for benefits and EAP referral. Unfortunately, we had to do several grief assistances for the EAP as well for people who lost family members, sick leave donations for employees who had exhausted their leave, some TCRS applications for retirement, and some other type benefits. Community involvement, we had 6 events with the Community Involvement Chamber of Commerce event, Leadership Rutherford, Main Street, Read to Succeed, mock interviews in some of the high schools, and Tennessee Achieves, which is a scholarship program for high school students. Events, we had one event, which was our Leadership Tuesday. Once a quarter, we have all the leadership in the county come together, and we bring in guest speakers and topics and of interest that they would like to hear, whether it be the county attorney, somebody from the state may come in, the federal government, and other items. We had 51 participate in that meeting this month. Leave, we had 97 leave options. We have currently 71 individuals on FMLA. We have 6 individuals that participated in the COVID leave, and then other personal OJI and military leaves are included in that. Legal services, we had 8 different opportunities where we're investigating things for the legal department and otherwise. Onboarding, we have 56 offboarding. We have 56 individuals where we conducted 26 exit interviews, and we had 30 resignations or terminations in the month of April. Onboarding, we had 150 activities for that, 31 new hires, 38 new hire poll workers, and 7 volunteers for pause, and then other information that goes along with that process. Policy changes, there were 10. We did 10 different job description reviews and revisions based on processes in the departments. Special events promotion, we had 1 promotion with Cornerstone offering our employees a special benefit. Recruitment, we had 790 activities for that, applications that we received by applicants, referred, declination letters, 50 interviews. We had 50 different job postings, reference checks, and internships. Reports and surveys, we had 384 reports or surveys that were conducted, 146 of those being open records requests. The other were Title VI requests, and again, that's interpreters for court, people who are non-English speaking and need an interpreter for a language. We had 51 of those requests, and unemployment reports, verifications of employment, background check reports are some of those that round out that number. Special projects, we had 240 special projects. We did an employee survey where we had 211 individuals participate in that. And then we have been conducting a military audit with all of our departments, and we've had 23 participants in that so far. Evaluation and testing, we had 96 of those. Those items include the background checks, physicals, MMPIs, and other items associated with new hires. I've already told you about the Title VI. We had 51 of those. And training, we conducted training for 622 employees this month. 529 of those were for Title VI, and we had 31 for drug-free workplace, employee handbook, and sexual harassment. And that concludes my report.
Have any questions? Need a motion to accept her report? Commissioner Cush, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Rather. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Before you step down, I have one question for you, Sonia. The military leave, I don't really want to go into it, but it's your office, I know you, conversation with you, you're working hard on that. How are we doing on that?
We have we've got 20, let me see, I've got the number right here. We've reached out to all the departments, and a majority of them responded. We've got 22 employees that this may impact. We are comparing. Those employees have sent in their DD-214s, and we have to compare that to what USERRA, which is federal law for deployment, and then the state of Tennessee law, which is for Guard and Reserve, and to make sure that we are properly applying those 2 separate leaves. So hopefully we are near the end on that process, and we'll then bring forth the policy and the leave request form for the military, hopefully at the next meeting. We got the final on one of the last departments, and another employee sent information again today. So that is my plans.
Thank you.
Okay.
I got Commissioner McAdoo.
Yes, I got a couple of questions. Last month at our commissioner meeting, Paul's came up here with an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Have we had any people to apply?
Yes, sir. He's actually we've hired, I think, 3 people for him already for his position. And we are working on, and I think I mentioned it at our last meeting, doing those on-site interviews. We're getting the banners created for that now. We've done a purchase order request, and the sign company said hopefully within the next week or so we'll have that to do the on-site interviews as well.
Okay, I had talked to him after that commissioner meeting briefly about, do we have a plan to offer sign-in bonuses or anything to that nature?
We don't have anything like that in place, but we would be happy to.
Can he, whoever govern him, whatever committee he reports to, look at sign-in bonuses?
We could take that through public safety, but it would then have to go through the budget committee as well, because I'm not sure he would have to have the money in his budget, obviously, for us to do that. But
under an emergency situation, we normally can always find money if it's not in the budget. And another thing I talked to him about, what about other animal control places in the state? Do we pay less than everybody in the state?
No, I mean, the department that we tend to lose employees from the most is Metro. And Metro does pay more, and they were one of the entities that we did not use as a comparison in our salary survey, but they do pay more than us. Most of the other, there's not that many animal control in the state of Tennessee. Yeah, there's very few. And I will have to say, Michael has a really good department.
Yeah.
It's just that, you know, it's a hard job. It really is. I don't think people realize that. And I'm hopeful with what the commission is looking at for the pay plan or the salaries and the recommendations that the mayor's made and some of the other commissioners have made. I am hopeful that if some of that goes in place, that will significantly impact PAWS in a positive way. But for the immediate problem like you're talking about right now, that is something that we could look at.
Look at that. Also, what about our colleges? MTSU, Tennessee State, they have good animal science departments. Have we ever looked at offering animal science scholarships or anything to help those students that are going or majoring in those departments at those schools?
Several years ago, we reached out to MTSU because the county has a scholarship fund that we have where we'll pay 3 recipients $500 twice a year, each semester. We reached out to MTSU at one point in time to their financial aid office to set up a scholarship-like program. There's a lot of things that we had to go to for that, but we have reached out to, Rebecca in my office has reached out to their animal science program. She has some contacts over there, and we're trying to get in with them before summer gets, because some people won't go home for the summer.
Right.
They may go to summer school, and so we're hoping that maybe we can get some of those students in the summer to help out instead of them going home for the summer that might be in the animal sciences program.
Looking at that, they may be able to make some money for college doing
Yes.
that. I know Tennessee State has a program. And
Animal sciences program? I'll check out with them too.
agricultural school.
Because there might be some students that go to school there that live in Murfreesboro.
Right,
Yeah,
it is.
Animal science program. And we also reached out to MTSU's criminal justice program to help with our law enforcement, corrections and those type things.
All right, thank you.
Okay, but thank you. I will check into those for you. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is our legal service agreement renewal. This will be up in May 12th. So we're voting to extend our county attorney for his legal services. And is there any discussion on this? This will be for a period of 4 years. And Nick, I need to ask a couple questions. So I would assume that based on the 4 years, that gives you more for you to have a little bit more stability in prices and more stability as far as your law firm and how you can send resources, because like if we did it every year, then you would not be really know what was going on as far as like making any drastic changes or anything like that. Are you following me on what I'm saying?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think that's you hit the nail on the head. You all see me a lot. I'm at all the meetings, and occasionally there's another lawyer from my office that may appear publicly at the meetings. But it's not just me managing the work. I've got a team of people at my firm, my partners and associates, paralegals, and in order to be immediately responsive to the county's needs, which I hope has been demonstrated over the years to the county, having less than a 4-year commitment makes it difficult when considering labor costs and office lease costs and other costs that just go into operating a law firm. And so I think from that perspective, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Is there any questions for our county attorney? Commissioner McAdoo.
So you're saying that, I thought it was a 3-year contract, so it's a...
Yeah, it's a 4-year contract. I looked back at the last one, it was 4 years, not 3. So I misinformed you on that. I apologize. It is a 4-year, and he's asking for a 4-year on this one. And I wanted a shorter one, but I have looked at numbers. I have looked at us being a growing county as far as looking into an in-house attorney. And based on the, in my opinion, based on the quality of work that we're getting, I feel like the best thing for us to do as a county is to stay with this law firm and to stay with Nick as our county attorney for the period of 4 years.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. He's done a wonderful job, but I just didn't want us to tie ourselves down over the next 4 years as we grow. And we see more and more that we're going to need in-house legal services, that our hands are not tied to seek it. I don't know if it's anything in here in this. I didn't see anything that referenced that, but if, for example, in 2 years, our population double or whatever, and we see that we need in-house legal services, will we be able to get it without any conflict to this contract?
Well, to respond to the question about growth, my response would be this. My firm wants to grow with the county. And as the county grows in population, so too, I hope my firm can help facilitate that growth from a legal services perspective. You know, we've got 6 lawyers right now in my office, many of which are seasoned litigators and many of which have experience in many facets of the law, whether it be taxes, real estate, budgetary process, intergovernmental workings, etc. As of later this year in the fall, we intend to add 2 additional lawyers, so that'll put us at 8.
Okay.
And you know, Commissioner McAdoo, I'm not a spring chicken, but you know, I have a family here. I have my roots here. I want to be dedicated to the county for as long as I can, which means if I'm going to do that, I myself will have to ensure that the firm grows and can adequately service the work being done. Now, if there's ever a point in time where it comes that the county doesn't believe that it's getting an adequate level of service, then I'm sure that the county, through its merits commissioners, will talk to me and address that. Do I foresee that being an issue? No, I don't, because like I said, I want to continue growing with the county.
Hey, you answered my question. I just want your hands to be tied to add on other legal people if we had to. But you answered that. You're going to add 2 more in the fall. So over the next 4 years, you will have that flexibility to bring legal assistants on your staff.
Yes, we interview on a regular basis outgoing law students and looking for talent to come and service Murfreesboro, because that not only reflects good on my firm, but it also reflects good on the county.
Okay, so you do have that flexibility.
Yes, sir, we do.
That's all.
Good? Any other questions? Commissioner Cush? Looking for a motion?
Mr. Chair, as I am currently working on my 3rd term, or hoping to achieve my 3rd term as county commissioner, I remember the last 4 years when this contract was discussed, we spent an inordinate amount of time and research comparing in-house representation versus the current form of representation. And with Lisa Nolan's help and others, we compared numbers and billing hours of what was done in the years previous, and the need for, if we had in-house attorneys and staff, because we obviously would need staff to support that attorney. And then there would still need the ability to have attorneys attend court for us and argue our cases that would be above and beyond an in-house attorney. And then, you know, the fear was the county our county has a history, as we know and have argued and seen in most recent weeks, that our pay scale may not attract the best of qualified attorneys to have someone on staff. So I am convinced that our current representation from a contracting standpoint is the way to go, at least for the next 4 years. And we can revisit that at that point. So I would like to make a motion to approve the $292,450 general fee with the up to 5% escalation based on the Tennessee Department of Finance and Admin formula, and send that to the full commission for approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second, Commissioner McAdoo. Since it's dealing with money, we need to go to the roll call.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Chairman Harris?
Yes. Let's move on. Since we just up his, for another 4 years, let's get to the litigation list. Is there anybody have any questions on the litigation list? Seeing none, I do. So there's 2 cases on here that I want to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is number 2, which is Nunley versus Rutherford County. So can you get us up to date on this? Because I'm hearing all kind of stuff about this, and I'd like to know what's going on.
Yes, Chairman, I'd be happy to. Of course, being cognizant that we don't want to discuss any sort of privileged stuff, and I'll be careful of that. That matter is geared up to actually go to a almost full week trial in, I think, about a week and a half, 2 weeks. The lead attorney on it is Randy Mantooth in my office, and he, along with other lawyers in my office, are doing pretrial preparation work for that trial to take place, like I said, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Any questions on that? And the other one is Nicholas Trail, Stephen LeQuire versus Rutherford County.
Yes, Chairman, that also case is an active litigation. There have been a number of depositions that have recently taken place, and Mr. Mantooth is also the lead attorney on that case. There will be additional depositions that are going to be taken. The trial date, I believe, is set for sometime next year.
So going back to the Nunley case, who is the lead attorney on that?
Randy Mantooth in my office.
Okay. Anybody got any other questions on the litigation list? Grumpy Bail Bonds versus Rutherford County, Tennessee.
Yeah, we still don't have an update on that one. Like I informed y'all last time, we're waiting on the district court to issue an opinion. I have filed a motion to dismiss that case because I do not believe that the plaintiffs in the case have any legal basis to bring a claim, and the district court has just not ruled on it. And we have to be careful. Judges, just like other human beings, can somewhat be temperamental sometimes, and I don't want to upset the court by asking, hey, why haven't you issued an opinion yet? But when it comes down, I'm hopeful that it'll be in our favor and they will dismiss the case.
Good, Mike. Any other questions on the litigation list? Seeing there's none, let's move on. Next on the agenda is the Juvenile Detention Board discussion. The reason I put this on the agenda is last month we passed a resolution to create a Juvenile Detention Board committee. So we have a lot of work to do on this before we implement it. So the first thing I want to do is, with this body, is, gentlemen, we need to discuss what are we looking for as far as requirements to have on this board. I look at it as we need attorneys. I'd like to see judicial commissioners. I'd like to see people who have a building or maintenance background. And I'd also like to see somebody from recovery court. I have not asked her at all, and I need to, Ms. Duke, would you come up here? please? I'd like you to be in this discussion if you don't mind. Most of y'all know Ms. Duke. She runs the Juvenile Detention Center. Gentlemen, ladies, kind of like want to get your idea of what you think and yours as the idea of what kind of makeup do we want to have here? And what are we looking at as far as, I've given y'all some examples, but is there something else that you would want to look at for this board so it can be successful? Anybody? Mike, go ahead.
All right. I think originally, it doesn't take a lot to get me confused, but I was kind of confused about attorneys, educators, everything else, but then there was a discussion about facilities. So I'm thinking maintenance, facilities management. So there's a lot of confusion in my mind about what this board is. And Mr. Chairman, I agree with some of the professions you brought up, a retired lawyer, because there'd be a conflict between an acting attorney and the county attorney's office, people in education, facilities management, because that's where my confusion came in. I thought it was, we're going to move this wall or not. I didn't understand what an attorney or a teacher, retired teacher, had to do with that. So a mixture of all that makes a lot more sense in my mind. Ultimately, in my head and heart, is to have people of those professions, at a minimum, there could be other professions, people that have a heart to take care of these children and make sure they're taken care of, your facilities are taken care of, and that board is a support for whoever the director is. Now, I know that we've got in language that that board could decide who the director is, but I think if you have people that care about that facility and those children, I don't want to call them inmates, children, the way you do, the way you've performed, I think it'll be a good mix. So it's really, yeah, we can't just pick everybody out that loves kids, because every mama in the world loves kids, most of them, the majority. But I agree with that. All that Chairman listed, as long as they have a heart for what we're trying to accomplish, and that's my questions, what are we trying to accomplish? And I think I know the answer. It's to have a well-run facility that is going to care for those kids. And, as the Bible says, God disciplines those he loves. So caring about them may be a hard thing sometimes, because you care about them enough to lock them up or give them some discipline or whatever. But I think we've got to find that mixture of people, whatever their professions or whatever, that really care about that facility and those folks in that facility, whether it's staff, certainly the children.
Well, let me answer your question on some things. Some of the things that this board will be addressing is approved facility policies, detainment, staffing, segregation, code of conduct, how juveniles are schooled, amended policies, and the evaluation of the director. Those are just some of the things. So you see where lawyers can be in some in the maintenance. But I really want to get your idea of what you think. And Ms. Duke, please, if you want to, step in.
Well, the one thing that I for sure want to remind everybody is that, so this board is supposed to be the Juvenile Detention Center board. But keep in mind that our building has 4 different, separate, unrelated departments in it. So that I don't know that the court clerk, the juvenile probation office, the juvenile judge's office would necessarily, although, I mean, they would want a voice, but I don't know that they would want a board that is specifically meant to be concerned with my department's issues, making decisions about their part of the building, because we all are separate. We share a roof, but these are independent departments who have their own department heads.
When you have a budget and you do your budget, do you budget their money for their
No,
offices?
the county maintenance has always, because there was originally 5 departments, the Community Learning Center has now closed, so there's just 4. But county maintenance has always been over the maintenance and utilities of the entire building. As an example, however, county maintenance is doing a roofing project in our part of the building, and one of the issues that we may have is because they weren't thinking of our part of the building as being secure and correctional, potentially some of the remedies they are applying to a problem may not meet minimum standards for juvenile detention centers. So because they didn't, they didn't run any feelers out on that, I don't know that they considered that perhaps the reason that the ceiling was originally designed the way that it was based on security issues. And I'm just hoping that this new drop ceiling won't be an issue. So that's what I have to say about the maintenance and facilities part of the board.
Yeah, and I think that if we had somebody that was in that area, that would have helped you out a lot. Would you not?
Well,
Because if there's certain requirements for juvenile, then is what is not with our building maintenance, then we have a problem.
I just wish that Adam had called me and said this was my plan, and I could have at least said, can we check the standards and make sure that this is going to fly as far as security concerns are.
So when we write this, let me tell you the stages that we're in, okay? Number 1 stage is we got a resolution for us to form a board. That's checked. The next one is that we're going to try to come up with the requirements and qualifications for those to be on the board with you. That we're doing now. The third thing that we're going to be doing is writing a policy book on this as to know everything that we do. That, to me, what you just said, shows me the initiative and how much we need you to have input in this. Because if we don't know this, then we have a problem here. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, and that's why I think that it's important that we have this board so that we can all talk to this, and the county commission can also be informed as what's going on as well. I think that one of the problems, and I don't know you, Ms. Duke, but I know that you work here and you're a good worker, and I think somehow you feel that you're being attacked a little bit by me, and I'm not. It's just I'm going to let you know something that I told every commissioner. Accountability and transparency is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Okay, so it's not an attack on you. It's more or less trying to get more transparency, more accountability. And that's just how it is. When you have, when we go through what we went through, there has to be some changes.
I don't feel attacked, and have always been on board with accountability and transparency. I just want to make sure that the people who are tasked with being a board member has some good, solid experience. I have been contacted by several folks that are involved with standards and licensing and monitoring of facilities across the state. And one of the questions that they've asked me, because I think they're potentially interested in this, is will the fact that they might have the background that everybody would be interested in. If they aren't residents of Rutherford County, would that be held against them?
Well, that's something that can be discussed amongst this board. As for me, no, I'd rather it be Rutherford County. But that doesn't mean I'm just one vote in this. But you see, when we write this policy, that's the information that we need. So you're asking, so you would like to see somebody with standards and codes experience?
Well, specifically with juvenile correctional standards and codes, but, you know, jail management, at least. I mean, I don't think that the county maintenance in any way attempted to go the wrong direction. I just don't think that it ever occurred to them that the reason that this particular area didn't have a drop ceiling system was for security purposes.
Sure.
And then we didn't know we were getting a drop ceiling until it was too late.
Got you. Commissioner McAdoo.
Thank you. As chairman of property management, and I think Commissioner Johnson is on that committee too. I probably could see more if Adam was experienced. Adam was hired during a hasty period when we found out that Ben was going to retire. So it's a lot of things Adams don't know, and we need to, you know, address it and school him and bring these things up like you talked about, because not only with the juvenile department, we have issues with things that Ben knew that Adam don't. You know, he's learning. So we all got to school him, you know. On that, that's the reason I brought that up, because we have some issues, just like you have some issues with Adam being new in that position.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question I have, you touched on it lightly. Are you aware of any other county with some of the same problems that we've got that have a plan or an oversight committee, you know, somewhere out there in the ionosphere, somebody that's got some information that we could use? Are you aware of any of anybody that's got a facsimile of what our problem is?
So the short answer is no. The extended answer is there is a section of the state in the Tri-Cities area where they have a collaborative system where they all get together, but the exact makeup in it is different than what I think we're talking about. I think Nick may be able to speak to that a little more than I can.
I'll do my best. When we were initially discussing this, in reference to what Ms. Duke said, that was some of the information that I had obtained, that there's multiple counties that have some sort of interlocal arrangement to provide a single facility that houses juveniles. Yet they have got a private company that runs the facility. They do have I'll call it like an inter-county board that generally oversees the contract with the private company, but is not involved at a level similar to how our workhouse board operates here, our workhouse board. So that's what the idea was behind this novel thinking, was to mirror this new board after how the workhouse board operates. I did do a little out-of-state research, and I found some news articles out of another state. I'm wanting to say maybe it was Delaware or somewhere, where a board like this had been created. And because the juvenile detention facility had faced various issues, some of which not of their own creation. But in order to provide a different level of oversight, they had a board that was comprised of individuals that had previous experience in judicial corrections may have been retired district attorneys or lawyers. You know, part of what Lynn's facility does is provide some sort of education. So I don't even know, maybe a social worker in her spare time or his spare time that's a counselor, because Ms. Duke will tell you that it's not just a facility to house, you know, juvenile inmates, but a lot of these youth are troubled youth, and that's a big part of what she deals with on a day-to-day basis. So to answer the short answer is no, there's not one like it in the state of Tennessee. B, that's what we're trying to figure out here, how to run it.
Commissioner Rather?
I thought I was unconfused, now I'm more confused. So, under the roof, you're saying, if I understand correctly, there are 4 different departments with 4 different directors. So we're looking at a board to handle a 4th or a 3rd or whatever, sounds like 4th, of your building, which is all under one roof, which facilities is all under one roof. So, in listening to Nick, he said, if I remember correctly, that the ones he was looking at was a standalone juvenile detention center. And we have a juvenile detention center that is in the same building as 3 other departments. So now I'm back to confused, not opposed to a board, but how can a board, unless we clarify, the board handles 1/4 of the building, but then when the whole roof system's blown off, what does the board do? Do we have boards for the other 3 departments within that roof? I'm, you know, the more we talk about it, the more it kind of gets muddy. And I don't want to be muddy. I would like to come up with a conclusion that we can better support you and support that facility. But there's 4 facilities, it sounds like.
In the past, the way that just specifically talking about building maintenance or facilities maintenance, okay? The Correctional Work Center, their budget has in it money for building projects, as well as they're paying for their utilities, their water and their electric. That's not the case for me. In the past, building maintenance was always a collaboration between the mayor, the building, at the time it was building maintenance, but facilities director, so the mayor or county executive, facilities director, and whatever department head that where the issue in the building was. So if it was an issue on my side of the building, then Mr. Burgess, myself, would discuss it and come up with a plan. If it was, you know, the clerk's office, it would be the clerk would have the conversation with the other 2. Because the only part that of the building that juvenile detention sort of bleeds over into is security. In the beginning, in 2008, we had the only cameras, the only keys, the only access to open certain doors. Everything was run through my department's central control. Over time, that's morphed a little bit. The Sheriff's Department now has some cameras that they access. Each department now is taking care of their key control. We don't have key control authority over all of the departments, so we don't have the master keys to everything anymore. The thought process in 2008, and I don't know if Commissioner Cush remembers it or not, but he was a part of PBA when all this transpired, was that because we're 24/7 and those other departments are not, if there is a fire in the juvenile probation office trash can, my officers can get there and put it out with a fire extinguisher without having to call the fire truck, without having to evacuate the building. Now, if something happens on that side of the building, I don't know that I have a key to open those doors anymore because the key control has morphed.
So, 4 different departments in that building. You have your own, whether it's state mandated, federally, whatever, your own rules
Yes, sir.
that you have to follow.
Yes, sir.
And then you got 3 other departments, their rules may be different.
Yes.
Like there could be 4 different rules and regulations within one roof system. Is that accurate?
In theory, I don't know that.
But it could be.
Yeah. Yes.
So we have a board that is going to oversee your department. That do they know what the rules are with the other 3 and all the mandates?
I don't.
And you know, it'd be a lot cleaner if we had just a standalone building for juveniles. I wouldn't be asking these questions.
All of those departments, though, are very interactive with each other. I mean, it's the entire juvenile court system.
But if you have a fire in another department, a trash can in the hallway, you mentioned that, y'all have no access. And you're having drop ceilings put in that may or may not be up
Fire
to,
rated, right?
yes.
Smoke, 2-hour smoke walls, the whole, yes.
Happens over there, but it comes over here, and now we got all these kids because of drop ceiling, because facilities management, the 4 departments, it sounds like a lot of work to reach a goal, and the goal is keep everybody safe, and I think the goal is to educate. I would like to see an ESL teacher in there. I don't know how many non-English speaking you have. There are so many facets to this.
We work very closely with the Board of Education, and we're graduating kids left and right that would have never graduated high school. And one of the things that I've decided against it just to kind of wait and to see how this all plays out. But, I can bring, you would have questions and hear stories, and our education department, they are some of the most fabulous men and women that this county has to offer, and they're doing things for these kids that would thrill your soul. But
So
we just do, and we don't get out and talk about it.
well, we've been talking about this for a couple months, and again, I'm not opposed, but what started out with a 5-piece puzzle has now become a 25-piece puzzle, trying to get everything together. And I'm sorry, I had no idea there were 4 different departments in there. I knew there were a couple, I didn't know there were 4. And it seems like the water's kind of got more muddy, for lack of a better term, and I don't think it's an obstacle we can't overcome, but it's a discussion that's going to take a while, in my mind, to accurately meet your mandates and your requirements for a juvenile detention center and take care of the other departments in there as well. I won't keep on going on this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, two things. Number one is, you wouldn't have known any of this stuff had we not started doing this board and brought this out. So
He could have come
these-
visited anytime. We always
Yeah.
welcome that.
But I also think that to answer some of his questions is this board would be, we would be able to take this matter to the board, you would be able to say what you said, and we would be able to get this done. I agree with you, 4 departments. Chairman McAdoo, I'd like if you could look into this and see if we can put all that building under one authority so that we don't have all this different stuff because it's one building, and if Lynn has to have a roof, then the building has to have a roof. And I think that we as property management should look into to see if we can consolidate all those departments into one. Is that something you can look into, Chairman?
Also, since you brought it up, when he was talking, he was bringing up issues that I think public safety should be involved with, you know, as far as security and those issues. So I see where she's coming from, is that things she had in the past has been taken away as that one authority, and which you really do need one authority, you know, because you can't be doing no guesswork out there, you know, and guess who doing this and who doing that. And I'm pretty sure we can look into that.
Thank you, Mr.
No
Chairman.
problem. And also, I would like to, now she brought up some good points. You know, it's been hearing that the juvenile center is one of the worst things we got in this county, but it is good programs
Yes, sir.
that come through juvenile center. And like she said, it's just not publicized. If we get that out there to the public a little bit more, maybe they will have a different aspect of the entire program out there. Because it is some good programs out there. I'm glad you brought it up.
Those men and women are very humble about what they do, and they would much prefer to spend their time and energy with those young people than patting themselves on the back, let's say.
Well, Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple of questions. I look back at our resolution in Section 6. It says this board shall have charge, supervision, and control of the Juvenile Detention Center and all of its departments. So what I'm hearing Ms. Duke tell us is the Juvenile Detention Center is just one department.
Yes.
So-
Now, just informally, under juvenile detention, we'll have like medical, education, but those aren't official county-recognized departments, just so that I understand what you're saying.
Well, I just want to make sure that this resolution and this private act don't take away somebody's role that's in a constitutional office to manage their own department. Because now that you've brought this up, I could see it worded in such a way where they could make the argument they're losing control of their office, and I don't think we can do that.
I agree.
I mean, the answer is no. If we can consolidate it all into one agency or one thing, that's not going to happen. But the way that I read this is that the Juvenile Detention Center is the only thing this board controls. So I think from the get-go, we need to limit our discussion to this board is not going to be managing the whole building. This board's only going to manage everything from wall to wall within the area that we call the detention center.
Yes. That's
And so I think if
perfect.
we start with that mindset, then a lot of these other problems go away. But it seems like to me the discussion is how do we manage the whole building? But the way this thing is worded, it sounds to me like we can only manage wall to wall within that area that's the juvenile detention.
Those areas are very well defined, so that's not an issue. Our department, organization, it's just, I wanted to remind everybody when we start talking about facilities management and walls and those type things, that there are other department heads and constitutional officers that are under that roof.
Well, and the way I read this, we don't have any control over those. It looks to me like it's just wall to wall within your area
Yes.
is what this board will control. So I would assume that the mayor and the maintenance department have control of the building in general, but this allows the board to control what happens with just your territory in that building.
That's my hope. I just, like I said, I didn't want to muddy and I didn't want to confuse. I just wanted to remind.
Well, I think that solves a lot of our problems because we're trying to solve things that are outside of the scope of what the resolution says. And then I want to know more about this roof that was put in it. Does that violate some kind of standards, what they did?
I'm not sure yet. Our fingers are crossed. The work is not completed yet. We have had, like all of the, sometimes the metal roof systems will cause issues with leaking, condensation. The amount of pipes that we have that are insulated, that run throughout the building, a leak around a skylight will produce problems, on the other side of the building because it follows pipes and condensates. The area that is currently being worked on has been denoted in recent licensing, monitoring trips, that it's something that the monitors wanted fixed. So it's being fixed, but I'm concerned that potentially, although the fix may be great, the drop ceiling, I'm not sure because we haven't had a full discussion on it, may have been to access an area that they think might continue to be a problem, yet it may have made a once secure vestibule unsecure.
But before we finish that work, do you think it would be good if we could get an answer on whether we were violating any kind of standards? I think that would probably be a good thing for us to do.
Okay. Part of the complication to this is it is the area of this construction, let's call it, is the only way to our outside rec yard, and we want to get the kids outside in the fresh air as much as we can. And so the longer that construction is an issue, and knowing how long it's going to take to get the answer, I'd almost rather than finish, put the drop ceiling up, let us get the kids going back with their programming on regular, and then let the people come in and say, yeah, I think this is going to work, or no, we probably need to do something else, because that could limit our outside rec time tremendously.
Mr. McAdoo?
I'm going to bring up a point here. You're talking about roofs, and it came to property management for the sheriff roof. And we took care of the sheriff roof, and the sheriff have the same type of security, I'm guessing. So I'm totally confused why this didn't come to property management, because the sheriff roof came to property management, and I'm pretty sure that they knew what they were doing because they took care of it, and everybody is saying it was a wonderful job. So I can't understand why these issues on the juvenile building is not being presented to property management.
I think it started out.
This is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time we've heard about it. Any roof projects or any type of work being done out there, period. But I do know that we had a major project at the sheriff department, and it was brought to us, and it was taken care of. So it looked like the security at the sheriff department be similar to the juvenile department. Maybe I'm wrong, but it wasn't brought to us.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Steve, I'm sorry. Commissioner Stevens, I have a question. You said that we were dealing with other constitutional officers. The county is, by law, has to provide constitutional officers a building or an office or whatever. So that would still be under, would that not still be under our our property management. So, I mean, is that not something we can't consolidate? I mean, we're providing them with building.
We can't make them report to this board.
No, you can't, I'm not trying to say that. What I'm trying to do is answer Commissioner Rather's question, is that building, instead of just us being over her part, be over the entire building maintenance.
Well, the building is already under the mayor's purview if it's part of the county maintenance program.
But we're not working together, and is that the problem, Lynn, that you're talking about?
Well, that's exactly what the problem is. There's not communication
that's
from
something that
maintenance to the mayor to the property management.
Board can address. I mean, that's something.
Yeah, that's
Go
what I
ahead.
want to talk about. Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Duke. Ms. Duke. So what we've uncovered is another issue, which is the lack of communication on the maintenance side. So if what I see is we're establishing a board for her division and her division only, which we all agree is 1/4 of that building. All right, that's what has come to light tonight. And going back to your original question, what do we need in terms of a board? And she's discussed, she would like to have somebody that has some familiarity with juvenile justice codes, perhaps a retired attorney, a retired judge, or somebody for certain that has no conflict of interest with what's going on there now. And there's others. And I'm not opposed to having somebody outside the county to sit on the board. Because I think they can add value. But now step 2 of what we've uncovered tonight is there seems to be a lack of communication or really who's in charge, perhaps, between facility managers or management, the maintenance director, and McAdoo talked about the need for public safety perhaps to sit in on this conversation, but property management as well as the PBA, PBA is also tasked with any building, not only new building, but refurbishment of county facilities. So a PBA, a public safety, a property management, a facilities manager, which really deals with the maintenance, that group of people need to sit down in a room together and decide who's doing what to who for how much, and then pick a leader and define the responsibility of this particular building. And if there's conflict with other county buildings that are going on that we don't know about, that needs to be hashed out. So we've uncovered 2 problems that are separate from one another tonight. But I think that needs to be happening right now.
Well, I also just want to say, I don't want anybody to think I'm hating on county maintenance, because if it were not for county maintenance, we would be in a mess.
No, I understand.
They help us
I
all
understand.
the time.
But when you mentioned the fact that, like what happens if the roof blows off, that's not really a county maintenance issue. That jumps over to McAdoo and PBA. Right? That's not a pipe clogging or the AC breaking down. Right. That is a structural and a problem that somebody other than the maintenance guy, that's out of his or her domain. So that's what I'm saying. A handful of people need to sit down and figure out what's going on, because it sounds like it's in disarray. But one last thing I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna task myself. My about-to-be son-in-law is a education director at CCA, the largest private prison group in the nation, and he formats the education program for the inmates to get their GED. Now, I know that the age limit's probably a little above what you're used to, but he may give me...
We are getting, our kids are getting their diplomas from the high school that they attended or a high set. GED is the older way of doing
well,
things.
I don't mind picking his brain and seeing what suggestions he might have with what he could help here. And he lives in Nolensville. And my daughter, who's about to be his wife, also works at CCA in operations. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not locked into just having Rutherford County people on this board. I think we need the assets of people that have the kind of knowledge you're looking for. Thank you.
Well, I think that we've made some ground. Let me go ahead and recap just a little bit here. Some of the people that we're looking at, Ms. Davenport brought out standards and codes, attorneys, building and maintenance background, retired judges, social workers, education. Anybody, is there anything else, Lynn, that we should look at? Feel pretty good with that group?
My want and desire is someone with DCS licensing background. That is where everything melts together. The minimum standards encompass physical buildings, code of I mean, all of the things that you've talked about, all of the things that are of concern, that have been mentioned, are in some way already established in the licensing for juvenile correctional facilities. Now they're changing. They're being updated as we speak. And honestly, a couple of the people that have reached out to me are well-rounded and understand how all of those pieces fit together. I think it can't be discussed enough that there are way more working pieces to this concept than anybody understands.
Well, the board's happening, so, and how we do the makeup on this is something that, you know, Lynn, we expect to lean on you heavy on, but the workhouse board works very good. Do we all agree with that? And this is going to be modeled after that. So that's one of the things that and we'll have Bill Cope coming in. He's going to help, you know, with the policy part of this. And, you know, we'll get with him and Lynn and this group, and then we will come up with a policy. And once we come up with that policy, then we'll discuss that policy. And once we discuss it, then we'll agree on it. And then we'll take it between the full commission. But right now, we're in the planning stages. We got a long ways to go, a long ways to go. And all this is, it is our job as steering committee for us to handle these matters. So this is what I'm doing. I am bringing every matter, being transparent with every one of you and asking, hey, what are we looking at? What do we want to see on this board? You know, what do we need on this board? This board is not to just sit here and go and fine-tooth comb Lynn. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do to support her, help her with what she needs to do, as well as being transparent so this commission can see what's going on. That's what my idea of it is. So, Commissioner Rather, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question. One thing I want to clarify. You taking care of your department, doing the best you can possibly do, is not being interpreted by me as hating on anybody. You've got a job to do, young lady, and you do it well. The one question I have, we have 4 departments in that building. Are they all 4 county departments, or is one of them a state office? Is one of them a regional? Do you have a ADA that's in there with an office that works for the state? Is it all county departments, county facilities, county employees in that building?
No, there are a very small handful of employees that work for the state. The public defender has an office, the juvenile public defender has an office on our side of the building. You know, he's great. He does his job and moves throughout the building with ease, and he's not an issue. Although I don't know that they've have a new one, the assistant district attorney who is assigned to juvenile court has space available to be used in the youth services office, but the juvenile probation office or the youth services office, the director is Tina Gray. She's a county employee. The court clerk, the juvenile court clerk, is those employees. Honestly, I don't know if they're county employees or state employees, but they work for the clerk. They're county employees. And then the juvenile court judge and her staff are also in that building, and then it's the juvenile detention center.
Commissioner McAdoo, the judicial building she's talking about, does the county own it? Okay, thank you.
We paid good money for it.
Thank you. All right, is there any questions?
Well, I got one last comment. Ms. Duke, is there a counterpart to you in a neighboring city and or county that does what you do?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so just thinking out loud. Would somebody like that be interested in sitting on our county board
Potentially.
that would have the knowledge you seek? Do you
My
know? Yeah.
co-worker peers throughout the state are all on the same. We all talk regularly, and I feel like that we all have a very similar knowledge of the things that we're talking about tonight. Where we go to get our answers collectively is the state level.
Okay.
And that's where it hits the road.
So is the state level perhaps where our pool of candidates might swim?
Those are the ones that have reached out to me are coming
Okay,
from.
that's a good deal. Thank you.
Well, in 2019, we passed a resolution to where we can set qualifications for certain committees. And so we have already passed that, so we can set qualifications for this board. All right, so I'm going to send a letter out to all of you with every one of these qualifications or areas that people would like to see on this, serve on this board, and with experience in these areas. So I will send that out to you. I need to move on because we had two more things real quick. Number one is we need to discuss the workhouse board gets paid $150 a meeting. Do we want to pay this board? My opinion is yes. It's going to be just like the workhouse board. It's going to meet, and I think we should pay $150 a meeting just like they get paid. Any discussion?
How often do they meet?
They meet every 30 days, once a month. Now, that gets us to the second question, Chairman Cush. Originally, we said 7. Now, the mayor is going to be on it, so he's 1, so that leaves us 6. We can either appoint 5 and have him appoint 1, or we can leave it at 4. And the mayor would have 5 members with the mayor being 1 member, so it'd be a total of 5. How do you feel on that? Questions? So all of us feel comfortable with 5 people and the mayor being 1, just like the workhouse board. I agree 100%. Okay? Move on from there. Again, gentlemen, I need to hear your input on paying on these meetings. I told you where I stand on it. How do you stand on it? Anybody? So do we have a motion to pay them $150 a meeting? We have a motion, Paul Johnson. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
I have a second, Commissioner Cush. Since it's dealing with money, I have to do a roll call. So go ahead, Rachel.
I have a quick question before we do that. Is there a resolution that sets what we pay the workhouse board, or is that something that's set by the state? Do we want to just say 150, or do we want to say whatever the people make at the correctional work center?
I'm saying what the people make at the correctional center.
Well, you said 150, so
150, that's what they make.
so if we set it at 150 and the people at the correctional work center go up to 200, this one would stay at 150.
Yes. We're staying at 150. Now, if it changes, that would have to come through this committee. But this motion is saying that we're paying them $150 a meeting.
I just want to be sure everybody's clear, because if that one goes up, this one stays at 150 and won't go up, but
Yes.
unless you say it makes
We
the
will
same
deal
thing with
that
the...
as it comes.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. Go ahead, Rachel.
Commissioner Kush,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman Harris.
Yes. All right, we got that. I will get this letter out to you. I really need your input on this. I really need to, we need to discuss these qualifications. This is a very serious, very important board. And there's, today, we've had 10 questions come up. So we know we got a long ways to go. Is there any other business? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.